This week on Half Step Down, Jose describes his perfect bed. Probably just a slab of granite with a sheet over it. Rene explains who stars in The Crow.
Bruce Lee's son.
And the boys come up with a new standard system for everything.
Is it better than No Holds Barred?
It's up there. It's up there, dude. Stay tuned. The episode starts now.
Jose, you're a teacher.
Yeah.
Have you been Zoom bombed this quarter semester yet?
No, man. I've taken every precaution to make sure I don't get Zoom bombed.
I've been Zoom bombed. We've been Zoom bombed 3 times. I want to say twice. Actually, I'm lying. Twice, and it was in the same class, different days, back to back.
Oh my god!
And it was just annoying. The first time they did it twice. And then the second time, they just played music at the end the entire time.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah. At least the song was pretty good. It was an old, I think it was a 50 Cent song from what I remember. But it was not, and at least it was towards the end, I guess. But yeah. And I think the worst part is that, I mean, I don't want to talk smack about any professors, but I mean, you can mute us, right? If you're the one running the Zoom meeting, can't you just mute everyone?
You can, man, but you would be surprised how, especially like older professors are just baffled by Zoom. I got teachers that are baffled by Zoom.
Yeah. I would think so. I have a couple professors who just don't like it, and then some who are, more tech savvy. So a little bit of both worlds, I guess, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, now that we got that out of the way, welcome everyone to Half Step Down, a music podcast where we create soundtracks for any given situation. I am your host, Rene, and with me is my co-host, Jose Martinez.
How's it going, everybody?
Jose, why don't you give a little bit of information about what the theme is today, what soundtrack are we creating, and a little more about the show.
So today's theme is kind of like sometimes, tell me if this has ever happened to you. Sometimes you want something old in a new way. Has it ever happened to you?
All the time. You have no idea how I want to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches more modern, but you really can't.
Right. So there are certain things that you can't do. You can't improve on peanut butter and jelly. But what you can do is you can take an old song and cover it and make it a little bit different. So today's theme is interesting covers.
And, I'd like to think that our list of covers today are pretty... I would think that some of them, you wouldn't know that it's a cover.
Yeah.
And then there's some that you would think, it's so close to it being like the original that I think you can sometimes think, wasn't that, you would think they're so close to the original song. And then you have some that are just totally different.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we definitely did this week is we definitely expanded our list a little more.
All right. That's what we do on the show, right? We try to find interesting things, new songs, make playlists for certain situations so people can discover new stuff and hopefully they like it. And if they don't, that's cool too. That's why we offer all these different songs.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Why don't we just get into the list already, since we do have a handful of songs today?
All right, so I'm going to start with one of yours first because I think this is, it's a classic. We're going to go with The Beatles, Twist and Shout, of 1963's Please Please Me. This is one of the most recognizable songs, I think, of all time. It was originally released in, that's got to be a typo, because it says 1981, but that's not right at all. But it was originally released, I want to say probably in 1918 by the Top Notes. It did not really do much until 1962 when the Isley Brothers covered it. However, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that the Beatles version is a definitive version, and I'm going to get a definite date on that original Twist and Shout while you talk about why you picked it.
So, Twist and Shout is a song that I had assumed was written by the Beatles. And as I got older, and I did some more research on just the Beatles themselves, right? Mostly all English rock bands started as cover bands, right? The Rolling Stones started as a cover band. The Beatles did some covers and stuff as they were as they were getting exposed. And this is one of my this song in particular is my personal favorite out of all the covers that have been done by Twist and Shout. I think a lot of it has to do with because of my mom. I remember when I was younger, my mom's a little older. She's in her early 70s, and she loves the Beatles, but she's an early day Beatle fan, right? Anything that is non-psychedelic she loves. And every time I play this song, she just has this look in her face, and I see her literally doing the twist, and it blows my mind because she's still got it in her. And I was just, Mom, where's your poodle skirt? Because I would have loved to see that. It was, yeah. So I guess this song has a soft spot in my heart. This particular song. Version as well.
Your mom is anything pre-drug era Beatles, right?
Yeah, anything pre-drug era Beatles. I'm a fan of both, but I guess because my mom was a pre-drug era Beatle fan, I think that's kind of where I stick to as well. I mean, I love a lot of the later stuff, but I think Revolver and Below are probably kind of my go-tos. Anything above that, I'll listen to it obviously, but I kind of stick.
You are a more pop-oriented guy, I'm discovering, as we kind of go forward.
I guess so. I haven't realized that until you just mentioned it. Yeah, I guess so.
So let me go back. It was 1961 by the top notes. And the Isley Brothers covered it a year later. Yeah, this is one of those songs that I thought was a Beatles song. And every time I heard it, I just assumed, because I think every version of this you hear is the Beatles version. I
would think that's the most popular version, right? I know you said like the Isley Brothers is the one that got the song on the map, but I think the Beatles is kind of what made is the song. That version is the one that blew up, right?
Oh no, yeah, but because the song was released in 61. The Isley Brothers covered it in 62, and then the Beatles released it in 63. So it's kind of like you see like the progression of how that song came into being, and how it finally reached the status that it's at now. But yeah, man, I mean, you've seen this. I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You've seen this all over the place. And every time you hear it, it's the Beatles version for sure.
Yeah. How about let's go to the next song.
All right, so the next one, kind of in the same era, but we're talking about Depeche Mode's Route 66. It was a B-side off 1987's Behind the Wheel. It is a cover of Bobby Troupe's 1946 standard. The song has been covered more times than I can mention. Chuck Berry, the Rolling Stones, Nat King Cole, all the way to John Mayer most recently. I'm sure there are other bands that are covering right now, but I picked the Depeche Mode version just because I'm a huge Depeche Mode fan, and it was the song that helped get them a lot of notoriety here in the U.S. Rene, what'd you think of it, man?
When I first hear this song, I immediately think of Chuck Berry. Did Bruce Springsteen do a cover of Route 66?
I'm sure he did, man. There's an endless list of people that have covered this song.
Yeah, so I always usually go to the Chuck Berry version, and I've always been a big... I love the Chuck Berry version of Route 66. I actually never heard the Depeche Mode version, but when I did, I thought it was pretty great. It was definitely something... a little different than what you're used to listening, than what you're used to hearing when it comes to Route 66. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
You know, it's weird because it goes from kind of a traditional cover, and then it goes off in these weird directions that the beats where it goes in the weird directions are actually, you can hear them on different songs that Depeche Mode does. So it was I like that because it kind of goes back and forth between what they do and what they were covering. So I always thought that was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I think we've covered this in our past episodes. If you guys want to check them out, they're on our website, halfstepdownpod.com, where we talk about Depeche Mode's live album. And it's just something, Depeche Mode, since then, I've given them more of a chance. I've given New Wave a little more of a chance. Well, then again, I do like Joy Division, right, and some Depeche Mode and stuff. But this particular song, when I heard it, I was like, oh, another Depeche Mode song, right? But when I heard it, I thought it was great. I mean, I have no problem with it. I thought it was pretty good. It definitely. I mean, is this the one that kind of got them on the map?
Well, this definitely got them.
Or kind of got like the wheels moving.
This one definitely got a lot of airplay in the United States, from what I remember reading. They were already kind of picking up steam thanks to like stations like K-Rock, but one of this B-side was one of the songs that kind of got them noticed, kind of like nationwide, from what I remember reading. Interesting thing about the song, the original was actually like a jazz standard. If you listen to the original, it's not rock and roll at all. It's very jazzy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't go as far back as the original. I just stuck to the. I did listen to the Nat King Cole version, and I did listen to the Chuck Berry one before. I like to listen to those after I listen to the list that we came up with, just to kind of see differences. I didn't do research on how far back it went, but there's definitely similarities to each version. But it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, I highly recommend it. If you want an interesting cover, something a little bit different, I would go with this one.
Yeah.
Great road trip song.
How about our next song?
All right, so the next one we got on our list, The Wonder Years, "Losing My Religion," was released.
I wonder who picked that song.
We're gonna talk about that at some point. "Losing My Religion" was released in 2018 as an Amazon Music exclusive, but has since been released everywhere. The original REM was off 1991's "Out of Time." Tell me why you picked this one, how you feel about it.
Okay, well, I have to give you a story about Amazon Music. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but this was the song. So I've been a Prime member I'm sure there's, everyone, the entire audience are Prime members. But if you guys don't know this, if you're a Prime member, you have access to Amazon Music, which is their platform to stream music, just like Spotify and Tidal and all that stuff, right? So when I found out that the Wonder Years did a cover "Losing My Religion" only on Amazon Music, I said, let me take a listen. That was the only song I heard on Amazon Music. The only thing I ever listened to at the time. I don't even use it now. I think that's probably been the only time I've ever used that. And a week later is when I got recommendations on my Amazon Music. I want to see what they think I'd listen to just by listening to this Wonder Year song, and it was all Linkin Park all the time.
Obviously.
Yeah, and I said, well, obviously, Amazon knows me very well. The algorithm definitely understood what I was going, where the direction I was headed when it came to my playlist. So I picked this song because I thought it's very well. Obviously, you guys go listen to it. It is very different than the original REM version of "Losing My Religion." This song, to me, it's not because I'm a fan. I chose it because that was the first thing that popped into my head. Because I am a fan, but it popped into my head because I said, man, this song, when I first heard it, I didn't like it. It was very just out there. It just wasn't what you're used to, right? Especially like a song like "Losing My Religion." But after I gave it a couple of listens, I said, I can get into this. It's definitely not their style to what they're accustomed to, but I chose it because it's just so different than the original version, and that's something I wanted to really get our playlist to go. It's like, oh my gosh, we have things that, that sound just what you think they're supposed to sound like, and then you have a song like this that is totally different. What did you think?
When it first started off, I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a straight up cover of the song. And then I want to say like into the second verse, maybe before the chorus, he starts that yell.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, oh, okay. This is them they're going to try to do it their style. Excuse me. Again, free podcast. Then it starts doing like that whole.
I can smell it from here.
Oh man, that's just brisket.
Smells like you had a curry bowl today.
No man, that's a guacamole burger.
Oh, you know what I had on Monday? Because I went to Guitar Center in Pasadena, was a Tops.
Oh man!
And I remember the last time I had Tops was with you, and oh my gosh, I forgot how good it is. Expensive though. Expensive.
Yeah. I love me some Tops. You gotta be sure what you're ordering.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that, guys. It did
it's a free podcast.
Free podcast. It did do a lot of the. I think I'm going to use the correct term here. Pop punk breakdowns, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of "Losing My Religion," which was interesting, because every time I think of "Losing My Religion," I just see Michael Stipe shaking his arms violently and like swinging in a circle.
Yeah. Can you do that right now?
I can't.
How would you do it?
I can't. I just I was on vacation up until about an hour ago, and the bed that we were on, the vacation was great, but the bed we were sleeping on was probably just a slab of granite with a sheet over it, because it was literally the firmest bed I'd ever done, so my whole back hurts. But yeah, man, the screaming on that towards the end, you can tell he really feels it.
Yeah, you think that song, when I first heard it, I even think the beginning was obviously, it has traces of the original, right? Because then how else would you start that song? But I think from the very beginning you can tell that it was not going to be just a straight cover. You know what I mean? Just with a different band. If that makes any sense.
Well, when I say straight cover, I mean it's going to be a song where a band is just going to do it in their style, but they won't deviate too much from what it is. But then once he starts like yelling, and then there are parts where that song is almost like I know it's an REM like alternative song, but it's got a lot of folk elements to it. Yep. And with this one where there's big like pop punk drum breakdowns in the middle of verses, I was just kind of like, okay, I see where they're going with it. I can see how a band like the Wonder Years get some of their stuff from REM. Mm-hmm. You can see a little bit of a connection there. Yeah,
good song. I enjoyed it. What were your final thoughts on that song?
I thought it was cool. I mean, I the Wonder Years, I like them. It was one of the first records we did on the old show, and I like them more than I thought I would. I'm not a giant pop punk guy, so it was interesting to see their version of a song that I really liked. REM, I think, personally, I know they're considered one of the great bands of the 90s, but I feel like they're not all but forgotten, but they don't get talked about nearly as much as they used to.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you there. I do think they might be one of the best alternative bands of all time, but I just feel that 90s alternative was such in a bubble. Wasn't just this little small bubble for just an abbreviated amount of time that nobody really gives it love anymore, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. I know a lot of those bands are still doing stuff, but for whatever reason, man, I don't hear anyone talk about REM. Maybe they were so of the moment. I don't know.
Yeah. Who sings More Than Words?
Oh, that's Mr. Big. That's like 80s, I think, though.
Is that 80s? I always thought that was REM. That's why I was thinking who sang More Than Words.
Let me make sure. Maybe it's not Mr. Big. I gotta look. Oh, I'm sorry. That's by Extreme. You're right. I was wrong. Yeah. And that was let's see when this was, because now I gotta know.
Free podcast, everyone.
Yeah, a free podcast. More Than Words. Come on. Oh, 91.
Yeah.
Soft rock acoustics. You're right. Oh man.
Blind Melon is another one of those bands that I think was cut at its prime, unfortunately, because of the singer passing away. But
yeah, man,
I think that was a band that
I heard a rumor a long time ago that the character from The Crow was based on that guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Crow, the movie. He was like a budding rock star, and then he gets cut in his prime.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know that rumor's.
I don't. Fuck. When was the last time you saw The Crow?
You know what? Not too long ago, because it was on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, I remember this, and I watched it, and man, that is such a '90s movie. That's got '90s all over it, man.
I got an interesting story about The Crow. One of my best friends, when we were 14 or 15 years old, we wanted to dress up and go out for Halloween, and he wanted to dress up like Brandon Lee from The Crow, and he had the leather pants, the mesh shirt, the face paint, but he did not have the long hair. He had the spiky early 2000s hair.
Yeah.
And I remember I kept making fun of him. I said, dude, if you would have just put on a wig, I think it would have been a lot better. But even till now, I make fun of him because he... and it was funny. Bruce Lee's son here, but he had his Osiris's on,
You had to.
It was, there was no boots. There were no boots.
Boots are expensive, especially those like buckly ones that he had in the movie, man. Those are expensive boots.
Yeah. Those are pretty expensive. He died in the midst of making that movie, right?
He died in an accident on set. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Bruce Lee's son.
If you want to see quite possibly the best movie he's ever been in, Showdown in Little Tokyo. You're talking Dolph Lundgren, Brandon Lee, Asia Carrera, I think, is in that movie. And it is just top-notch 90s or maybe late 80s, 90s terrible action. And it is one of my favorite movies. Please go check that out. That's not my recommendation for the week, but I'm telling you, go watch it.
Is it better than No Holds Barred?
It's up there. It's up there, dude.
You know, as I got older, I watched No Holds Barred, and my friend and I, Paul, we were trying to watch the movie, and we got up and said, "I can't do this." I said, "I can't either, man." We almost got through it, but and we're big pro wrestling fans, but I just could not get through that movie for some reason. I did all the time as a kid, kind of like Batman Forever, and then I think within 10 minutes of Batman Forever, when I was in my 30s, I'm like, yeah, I can't do this.
Nor should you. Nor should you.
Yeah. How about the next song?
All right. So the next one. Before we get to it, it's interesting you mentioned two things. One, Amazon recommending music to you because they think you like it. And I think it's that's why we do this show, right? We're trying to do a better job than Amazon, Spotify, all these guys. Because we want to recommend stuff that we think is, not just part of an algorithm, but something that's cool and different. But for this next one, sometimes the algorithm does something right. So the cover is Plastic Love by Caitlin Myers, which was uploaded onto YouTube on October 18th, 2018. It's got more than 7 million views, and it was originally by Mariah Takeuchi off her 1984 album Variety. So a little backstory on this before I ask you how you think about it. The original Japanese version, because the original is in Japanese, about 2 years ago, for whatever reason, the YouTube algorithm decided to just put this in everyone's recommended viewing. If you watched music on YouTube, for whatever reason, it would recommend this to you. They're not sure why, just some weird glitch in the algorithm. And because of that, not only did this song blow up from 84 back in 2018, but it basically brought back a small subgenre of music that was big in Japan in the 80s called city pop. Now, you listened to that song, Rene. What did you think of it?
I thought it was great. This is the last song I heard that from the list of recommendations that we had, and I never stopped moving.
I noticed that because I watched you watch it, or watched you listen to it.
That's right. You watched me listen to it. You're right. And I thought it was great. The horns and the thing that really captivated me about the song was all the wind instruments, the horns. I thought that was pretty great. She has such a good voice too, man. It was. Then again, I've never heard the original, which when I heard it, I thought I had. But now that you said that it's a Japanese song, I don't think I have. But maybe I have. I don't know, because this song sounds very reminiscent to a lot of other stuff that I've heard before. But I can't really point my finger on it. But it was a great song. It really was. And I'm glad that song was on everybody's YouTube recommendations because it was really cool.
So
it's really long too. 7 minutes long.
7 minutes for a pop song it's up there. Yeah. Check out the Japanese version. It's really good. But it's possible you might have heard it because I'm not kidding, man. If you were on YouTube in 2018 and you listened to any music or you watched anything about Japan or video games, I don't know why, it was on your recommended playlist. And it brought back, like I was saying, that whole city pop genre, which was basically just pop music from the 80s that took a bunch of stuff from like R&B, new wave, synth, like all this stuff, and mixed it in this weird bowl that if you've ever listened to bands out of Japan, they have a really cool way of taking different musical styles. I guess basically this is all of Asia. They can take different musical styles and morph it into something that you would not think would come out of Japan. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be metal, punk, pop music, R&B, hip hop. They just have a way of infusing it with their own kind of style and making it their own. That's just very unique of that area of the world.
Do you know what my favorite anime theme song is?
What is that?
It's the Naruto theme song from Asian Kung Fu Generation. And the reason I say that is because if you ever have a chance to listen to to that specific version of the song, it's all pop punk, bro. It is all pop punk. I've never heard any sort of J-rock in my day where I was like, oh my gosh, that's basically something I listen to here. And I got into Asian Kung Fu Generation for a while. I don't know if they're still around. I've kind of fallen off the wagon there. But when back in the early 2010s, when I was working at Atomic Comics, shout out to Atomic Comics. Well, they're not around anymore, but I was very into the J-rock scene. We had a guy that used to perform at one of the stores. His name was Meja, and he used to call it Janglish, and it was Japanese, English, and Spanish hip hop. And he would rap, and he would flow to about anime, Transformers, anything that he was into when it came to his nerddom, and he was rapping about it. And that's how I got into it, because he had mentioned it to me. He had mentioned Naruto to me, and that's how I got into it. And I was like, man, this theme song's rad. And ever since then was kind of, I would like to think that Asian Kung Fu Generation is kind of what sparked my pop punk influence, because up until that time I was more just into early emo, right? Well, I guess not. I guess I'm lying. I'm a liar. But that kind of started the new wave for me when it comes to pop punk, because I started looking for newer bands.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of like J-rock has those pop punk elements. Even like some of the J-pop stuff that's like more rock oriented has that kind of upbeat, those kind of big power chords, super busy bass lines.
Yeah.
There's an anime called K-On! Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's about, I've never watched it. I can't get into it. But it's about a high school band. There's these 4 girls that start a band. And that's like, it's a slice of life anime. It's too cutesy for me. I had a bass player in a band who was really into it. But one of the things I did like doing was you can watch like the music videos that the band made. Like the band, like the anime band. And it's pretty accurate. Like they draw them playing pretty accurately. And even stuff like the lead singer, she wants a guitar, but of course it's a Les Paul. It's like a Gibson. Like a really nice, and she ends up getting it. So it's like a really cool looking Les Paul, and all their songs have that J-rock kind of pop punk, just kind of like energy. And it was just an interesting thing, because a lot of anime songs have that.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Les Paul. I found an interesting fact online about our favorite band, Blink-182.
Yeah.
And it was about Tom DeLonge. You know, Tom DeLonge, like his signature strat, right? You know, the one I'm talking about with that humbucker at the bottom, right? He always, you know, he actually didn't record Enema of the State with that Fender strat. It was actually the Gibson Les Paul that he uses now, which I thought was really interesting, because now I went back to listen to it and I go, oh my gosh, you can definitely tell that it's not a Fender Strat. That it definitely has that more gritty vibe, that more gritty sound to it. And I thought that was pretty cool, because when you think of Tom DeLonge, of Blink-182 fame from the late 90s at that time,
early Blink-182.
Yeah, you think of that surf green, right? Like Fender Strat, right? And I thought that was pretty interesting.
You know
to
what,
find
man?
out.
I'm going to tell you right now, the more and more I do research on recording and stuff like that, that is a very common tale. I follow.
I never knew that.
I follow a couple guitar guys on YouTube, and they'll talk about how they're in the studio. There's one guy in particular. He did a video on the history of Les Paul. I forget his name. I think it's like Brett Edler or Adler. He does like guitar tutorials, but he did a really funny history of the Les Paul, and he was talking about how he grew up on seven string super shreddy like Strats, like metal guitars, right? Like with the big humbuckers. And he's like, I was in a recording session. We had just finished. We had like an hour left. And the engineer's like, hey, man, why don't we try recording this track again, but with this Les Paul I have. It was just this battered old Les Paul. And he says that they recorded his track and then immediately went and re-recorded every guitar lick with the Les Paul. Because that's just what it does. It just sounds amazing. Like, Les Pauls just sound good. Not that Fenders don't, but there's something about them, especially in the studio, that just sounds right for where you are.
Yeah. I have a Fender Modern player that I bought a few years ago, and that's a mashup of the best of your Telecaster and a Stratocaster. And I did modify the single coil pickup with a download to make it a little more grungy sometimes, when I want to switch it to that. And I am so happy with that guitar. Like, my dream guitar is a Fender, which is a Fender Thinline. It has a hollow body with the F-hole on top. That's one that I've always wanted. It has those 2 steel plate humbuckers on it, and it's an expensive guitar. But that doesn't take away from the fact on how good Les Pauls just sound in general. But then Fenders, I mean, if you find yourself a good Fender, hold on to it, because those are pretty rare to find at times, especially like Mexican and American made, because those are just so expensive. I think that those are just as expensive as a standard Les Paul.
Oh no, man, that's not true. You can get a really good. I mean, so it depends. So, you can get a great Mexican Strat for $500 used. You are not going to find a decent Gibson Les Paul for under $1,000. Now, if you see, so here's my issue with Gibson. So for all the people that were listening for music, I apologize. We'll get back to it in a second. But my issue with Gibson has always been this.
About music, so we're good. We're good. Talking about guitars in music, we're fine.
My issue with Gibson has been, because I actually have I bought an Epiphone Les Paul. I got it for my birthday. My wife bought it, the 50s edition gold top, because this is the first time I feel like Epiphone is as close to Gibson as you're going to get. But my issue with Gibson has always been this: a standard Les Paul. If you're going to buy one, let's say like a gold top, like the one I have, you're looking at, for a Gibson standard, $2,500, $2,500, right? An Epiphone, the one I got, was $600. Okay, it says Epiphone, doesn't say Gibson. If you want to buy a standard American Strat, you're looking at around $1,200. Okay. You buy a standard Mexican Strat, talking about $500, $600. But you know what? It's still a Fender.
Yeah.
And I will go so far as to say, and I've seen a lot of people say this, some of the Mexican Strats are actually better than the American ones because they put different configurations in them. And now, I've walked by, I don't know how many Squiers in Guitar Center where I have to do a double take and be like, is that a Squier? And I'll pick them up and be, damn, this sounds pretty good. I think when you and I were coming up, I don't know how many times we'd have to figure out ways to stop a Squier from feedback or from falling out of tune. But now, man, cheap guitars are really nice. And the new Epiphone line, man, is legit. They feel like Gibsons. They sound like Gibsons. I'm sure if you were to put them next to a Gibson, you could tell. But like when I'm playing mine, I'm like, dude, I can't tell. It feels right. It sounds right. It's crazy.
Yeah. Guitars have definitely modified, and they're only getting better. And I agree with you. I mean, when we were younger, growing up with these Squiers, man. I mean, it was tough. It was tough at times, but I mean, that's all we had, right? Now that we're older, we can invest a little bit on the things that we enjoy. So, all right, let's go to our next one.
Right. The next one, man. The early November, The Power of Love, off 2005's Punk Goes 80s compilation, Originally by Huey Lewis and the News, and it was off 1985's Back to the Future soundtrack. Huey Lewis even made a cameo in the movie. Looks like we both picked acoustic versions of more upbeat songs, as you'll find out later. But tell me why you picked this one.
Two things. I love Back to the Future. It is my favorite movie.
Not yet.
Aside from Clerks, those two are my top favorite movies. Those are my favorite. And then The Early November is one of my favorite bands. I think that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to leave it at that too. No, man, this was an interesting way to do that song because that song is so 80s pop, like bigness. To do a kind of stripped down instrumental version of it, I thought was a cool choice.
Yeah, jokes aside, this was the last song on my list. I wasn't sure. You know what? In all honesty, I forgot that they had done this cover. And growing up in the era that I grew up in, there's a lot of Pop Goes compilations. So you have Pop Goes 90s, Pop Goes acoustic, Pop Goes... I'm sorry, those. Punk. The Punk Goes, right? Like Punk Goes 80s, Punk Goes 90s, Punk Goes metal. Gosh, one of my favorites is Punk Goes Christmas. I love listening to that during Christmas time. But so I actually forgot that they have done that they did this version of the song, this cover, and I was trying to figure out something that I was like, man, I'm stuck on X amount of songs. I said I need to hit this next one, and it just came to me, and I said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about the part. I haven't heard this version. I haven't heard this song, man, in probably 10 years. I honestly forgot about this song, and I was like, you know what? I was trying to pick songs that are definitely obviously not better than their originals, but are definitely different than their originals.
Yeah,
and I try to do a handful, right, like half of those. So I really enjoy it. I think it's definitely different, and sometimes when you turn something soft and acoustic, it doesn't bode well. But I think that The Power of Love actually, it definitely worked.
Yeah, man, it was definitely an interesting choice. I know The Early November is your band, and they did a good job, man. You're right. It sometimes that can go kind of either way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you liked it.
All right, let's go on to the next one. You know what? I'm gonna switch the next one because I'm gonna keep it in the taking an upbeat song and making it acoustic. So the one I picked was Jose Gonzalez's "Heartbeats" off of 2003's Veneer. Originally by fellow Swedes The Knife, the song was originally released on the album Deep Cuts in 2002. The original song is kind of like an electronic dance song that's got a deep groove. And the Jose Gonzalez version is like an acoustic ballad. Rene, tell me what you thought of it.
This one was definitely threw me off guard because I wasn't sure what we were going to choose for each other, right? What we were going to put on our list. And I wasn't sure what to expect from this, and I was like, who's Jose Gonzalez, right? Mm. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. I have no basis of comparison because I haven't heard the other one, but when you told me, now that you explained the kind of style that it was originally, man, I haven't heard it yet, but the fact that you said it's more of a dance funk groovy song, I'd love to hear it now, especially after listening to this one.
It's really interesting because the original it's like a deep groove. It's like electronic music. It's a female vocalist. It's upbeat in the way like old new wave, kind of like New Order or Depeche Mode. It's upbeat, but it's kind of got like a downbeat to it, right? Like it's like a minor key kind of song, but mm-hmm. it's done in like a danceable way. And he basically took it and made it a ballad. And his version has been on like a lot of TV shows and stuff. I know I've seen it at least two. I don't remember the first one, but I saw it on an episode of This Is Us. And I just remember thinking, oh, that's the Gonzalez version of Heartbeats. Because the first time I heard it, I heard the original at a party at one of our friends' house. She lives in Hollywood. And it was a very strange night because I had known this girl for years. And just that night, she told me that she was an equestrian, that she did dressage. Do you know what dressage is?
I do not.
It's like when you make the horse do all those little like tricks, like where it like trots and stuff. And I'm like,
sure,
that would be my most interesting thing if you were to meet me at a party. Like, how many times have we hung out and you've never told me you do dressage with horses? Just like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, God damn, you're an interesting person. But I guess that's why you live in the Hollywood Hills. Yeah. Either way, man. Yeah, I highly recommend both. Check them both out. They're great versions of those songs.
Nice. Next song.
All right, man. Steel Train, I Want You Back, off 2003's 1969 EP, originally released by the Jackson 5. In 1969, the song was first featured as a single and also on Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5. Tell me why you picked this one.
I think that this is the closest representation of what the original song is. I think that this song is I remember when I first bought this EP back in 2003, I would not go to the next track. I kept listening to this song. I said, man, that bass is so good. It was definitely different in some ways because obviously there was more bass and synth in the beginning than the original Jackson 5 song, but I really enjoyed this version. And I think I showed this to you.
You showed this to
20
me
years ago, right?
A long time ago, yes. Yeah. Yeah, man. I know I can't get into Steel Train, and for whatever reason, this version just sounds like the original slowed down. Something about the way he sings it is just too smooth for my ears. I just remember like little Michael Jackson just belting it out. But obviously you're not going to be able to hit those. Like a grown man is probably not going to be able to hit those notes. Even I think Michael Jackson, they did like a Jackson 5 reunion like 10 years before he died. And he sang this song and it was just rough because he's now a man, right? But it was cool to see almost like a straight up cover, right? Like they just did it their way.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. I think that this is, like I said, by far the closest representation of what the Jackson 5 of what it was, right? I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. EP is actually really good. If anybody has a way to, I think you can only find it on YouTube now, but that they have some really cool songs. I think they do songs that were released in 1969, so it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
How about the next song?
Next one, Reverend Horton Heat, Folsom Prison Blues off 1999's Holy Roller. That's like a best of compilation for them. I don't know if you can find it on Spotify. I couldn't find it. But it was obviously, the original is by Johnny Cash, which was released in 1955. This is another American classic, and I love this version. Tell me what you thought.
Did the only version of the Folsom Prison was the live version of Johnny Cash. That's the only one I remember. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the only version that I've ever heard. So I think we've had this conversation before on sometimes certain songs are just better live than in studio.
Yeah.
Right? Like Frampton Comes Alive. I always forget the name of that single, but that was a bigger... that particular version was bigger than the studio version, right? And I always thought that version, the Johnny Cash live one, was pretty spectacular. And then listening to, I was never a big Reverend Horton Heat fan. I had a buddy who was really big into rockabilly and psychobilly when I was growing up in high school. So obviously I've known, who Reverend Horton Heat was, but this is probably the first time I've heard Reverend Horton Heat in like 20 years, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Jimbo, the singer and guitar player, is one of the like underrated guitar gods of that era, of this era. The dude can just shred. On this particular track, yeah, the guitar, it's just him and the guitar, obviously, so he kind of does a lot of really cool tricks. But if you listen to a lot of his stuff, man, he's just a lot of those rockabilly guys just have these really hot licks, and he's one of them. He also has probably one of the nicest signature Gretsch models of them all. I love Gretsch guitars, and anytime I see somebody just rocking out on them, I have to. My heart like is happy. But yeah, this is definitely
Jethro
cool.
has a Gretsch. Jethro has a Gretsch, and every time I see him, I always want to play that thing.
Yeah, no, dude, I have mine, and I love it. I can't. Yeah. It was a very
good
happy
song.
day.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I can't get into that side of music. It just was never my thing. But
not a rockabilly fan. That's okay.
Not. I enjoy rockabilly, but not rockabilly.
There it is.
Yeah.
I knew that joke was coming.
Yeah, I had to. I just wasn't sure how to segue into it.
No, you did a good job.
Thank you. I can sense the sarcasm, but I appreciate the effort. Next song.
Okay, dude. Fall Out Boy. Love Will Tear Us Apart off of 2004's My Heart Will Always Be the B-side to My Tongue, which is a cover of Joy Division's 1980 classic. Rene, why'd you pick this one, man?
What are you talking about? Didn't you pick this song?
No, I didn't pick this one.
Oh. I think you can totally tell who's picked what, even if we didn't have to say anything. Can we, from here on out, just talk about the songs and not even say who picked them?
And then maybe
the audience can.
I will give you. I will make that concession. Yes, let's do that.
Yes, let's see if the audience, when they leave us comments and reviews and stuff, if they know who picked who. Because I think this was pretty clear cut.
This is pretty clear cut, man. I mean, the Beatles was a little bit of a that could have gone either way.
A little bit of an outlier,
but then we went straight Wonder Years, Early November, Steel Train, and Fall Out Boy. And I'm like, all right, I think we know who's who in this particular. Tell me about it, man. Tell me about it, why you picked it, and then I'm gonna tell you the story about me looking it up.
Okay, so, I just think it's funny. So I chose this song A, because I needed one. B, I did not like this song when it was released. I did not like their version of Love Will Tear Us Apart. I just don't think that song works as acoustic, or maybe just the way they did it. And as I started listening to Joy Division, I started to appreciate people that cover Joy Division songs. And so I think...
Interesting. Keep going.
Jose, it was just a song that I said, this is going to be something that I'm going to pick. When I started looking at the list and I needed one and you had sent me Depeche Mode, I immediately thought, oh man, Joy Division, let's put this Fall Out Boy cover song. This Fall Out Boy cover, why not? If I'm already putting the Early November and the Wonder Years and Steel Train, I might as well stick to 2003.
Do it.
And play some Fall Out Boy. But, I do like this version. I didn't just pick it just to pick it. I thought it was, as I got older, I think I started to appreciate it a little more. Maybe I appreciate it a little more because I miss old Fall Out Boy. I think anything from Infinity on High and beyond, it's not my Fall Out Boy. So I just kind of stick to the first couple of records, and that's about it. So I mean, this kind of brings me back to a time where I enjoyed Fall Out Boy, I guess.
Okay, so I'm gonna agree. Anytime someone covers Joy Division, it makes me a little happy because I think that Joy Division doesn't get nearly enough credit for being as influential as they were.
Agree.
That being said, if I had seen a band in a bar cover this song, I'd have been like, yeah, you do that. But knowing that this was Fall Out Boy, in 2003 when they were coming up, man, they had some money. Yeah, man. I just this one is hard to do. You're picking one of the most iconic songs by one of the most beloved bands. And you know, like for an acoustic cover, it's like you did the best that you could. But when I was looking up some information to have like something to say about it, the first thing that comes up when you search Fall Out Boy, Love Will Tear Us Apart, is this website called Horrible Music and Songs Wiki, and it's the first entry, and it's a Wikipedia that's just got horrible music and songs, and it's got its own entry. And I'm going to read you the 3 reasons why it sucks. According to this website, Patrick Stubbs' vocals are angsty and aggravating. The original song's synth beats are replaced by generic rock instrumentation. And then it says, finally, the amount of auto-tune is embarrassingly bad compared to the original's raw and unedited vocals. I don't know how true some of that stuff is. I just thought it was funny that the first thing that came up was Horrible Music and Songs Wiki. Fall Out Boy is that band that I'm going to agree with you, man. Those first couple records, as not a guy that wasn't into the emo scene or the pop punk scene, some of those songs are just infectious, man. They just had a really good way of writing catchy rock songs.
Who doesn't like Dead on Arrival?
Dead on Arrival is just, it's a great song, but they did kind of fall into that trap of like they got really big, and now I don't even know what they even do. No, and you were the one telling me that if you see them recently, they won't play Dead on Arrival, right?
I don't think they've played Dead on Arrival in a really long time. Yeah, that's something that I saw on the internet a long time ago. Yeah,
it just feels wrong. I feel like you gotta appease your base, man. I
want to say I was 22, 23. And they had just come out with like a live record, and I looked at the list, and I was like at the track list, and I said, "Man, they don't play Dead on Arrival," and so I was kind of curious. So I started looking at like live shows, and I was skimming through them and going to like the track list. They do not play Dead on Arrival, and so I looked it up, and they just don't play Dead on Arrival. I guess that's a song that they don't play anymore. Oh, and they do this song called Saturday, which was I think it was their single off of the album. Well, they had a couple singles. I think it was Dead on Arrival, Grand Theft Autumn, and then Saturday. And they play everything else, but they don't play Dead on Arrival. I don't know if they do now, but from what I remember, they haven't. So
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a Fall Out Boy fan from when they used to open for New Found Glory. Right? I mean, that's how old of a fan I am, but.
Well, I think I
Go
told this story on the podcast before, but my buddy saw them at the Chain Reaction. For those of you who aren't from Southern California, Chain Reaction is this tiny club in Anaheim where the stage is, I want to say, like a foot off the ground. Like you can sit on the stage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that must have been kind of cool. And he's like, no, man, I couldn't even tell what song they were playing. I'm like, why? Was it like too late? He goes, those guys were so busy spinning and wall flipping that I couldn't tell what song they were playing. And I do remember that when they were younger, they used to do all that. Like the dude would just spin with his
kick flips,
those kick flips, and just doing all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, man, strap locks. I get it. It's good. But just do it.
Yeah. Do we have one more song?
We got one more.
Okay.
And this is Sad Girl, Motor Breath off of 2015's Volume 2. The song takes a metal classic and basically makes it into a surf/rockabilly instrumental. The original was by Metallica, and it was off their debut in 1983, Kill 'Em All. I became a huge fan of this band when it was recommended to me off of YouTube. It was weird. They have a really cool like retro sound, and obviously their name is taken from one of our favorite movies, La Vida Loca, or Mi Vida Loca, not the Ricky Martin song. But what did you think, man?
When you first sent it to me, I had saw Motor Breath, and I was like, is that? I think I had texted you, right? I go, are you talking about they're covering a Metallica song?
Yeah. Because
when I first heard it, I was like, is this? Because I wasn't sure, right? Because I enjoy Kill 'Em All. That's one of the first metal records. I think that was the first metal record I was introduced to. Actually, we'll give you an interesting story on that. I had mentioned to you, it was I don't remember where we were coming from. We probably had a show or something, And I'd ask you, so what do you recommend to somebody who wants to get involved in metal, right? Who wants to listen to metal? And you had to listen to Metallica, right? That's the stepping stone to anything that has to do with metal, because it's not as aggressive as some like metalcore, any sort of like heavier metal. And that's kind of, like you said, it was a stepping stone, right? And I remember I had listened to Metallica, I had listened to Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning and stuff in high school, and Kill 'Em All was the one that always stuck out to me. And so when I listened to it, I said, is that what I think it is? And I'd asked you, and you said, yeah, that's the Metallica song. So I looked it up, and I said, oh my gosh, it's totally different, and I enjoyed it. I don't remember. Do you remember the name of the artist who wrote Mr. Lou? Mr. Lou is the theme song to Pulp Fiction.
Dick Dale.
Yeah, Dick Dale. Thank you. I was really into Dick Dale for a while. So I had run a blank. When I was 15, 16 years old, I played a lot of Dick Dale music. Tried to mimic it on my RP80, which is a digital guitar pedal that I had bought for Christmas, or I had gotten for my birthday or something. And I was trying to mimic it as much as I could, and I thought I hit it pretty well. It's just that my amps and stuff were little small little baby amps that were handed down to me. But I was really, so when I enjoyed it, it kind of brought a little bit of nostalgia to me, just being able to listen to something like that. I don't really listen to a lot of surf rock anymore, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, this is an interesting cover, man. These guys have like a retro feel. They do everything in that kind of surf rock, rockabilly style. So I was a huge fan of it. And I think I told you, I think the first 4 Metallica albums are like required reading if you want to get into metal. That, like Slayer, I think is the gatekeeper to the last stage of metal. I think if you can listen to like AC/DC, Motorhead, the other of the big 4, like Anthrax, Megadeth, and then the first 4 Metallica albums are just kind of this requirement. Like if you're going to get into metal, these are the albums that you should listen to. And I think if you can get through all that and you're like, I would like something a little faster, maybe a little harder, then I would just say, yeah, listen to Rain and Blood. And if you can listen to that and think it's music, then you can probably do death or black metal. Interesting, fun connection. Basically, surf rock is just black metal without distortion, if you ever listen to it. Just a lot of really fast picking. There's a great video on YouTube about it, how if you just take distortion off of death metal and black metal, it's just surf rock. It's hilarious how that works. But yeah, man, like Dick Dale, classic. Another like criminally underrated guitar player. But yeah, man,
Dick Dale was great. Yeah, I was a big fan of Dick Dale. Yeah, when I was younger.
Yeah, man, I think we got a pretty decent little list of covers here.
I think so too. I'm glad that we create these soundtracks so people can listen to them and enjoy what we enjoy. And then eventually you're going to say, yeah, that's a Rene pick, that's a Jose pick, without even us having to tell them anymore.
Oh, man. All right. Man.
Let's...
Want to do our recommendations?
Let's do our recommendations. Why don't you go first this time?
So for me this week, I'm going to recommend 2 albums.
By the way, you said recommend.
Recommend. I'm going to recommend 2. They're both cover albums. And one of them is by Metallica. It's 1998's Garage Incorporated. This was a super well-received album, and it basically collects... They had been releasing cover songs as EPs for years. And this collects basically all of that into one 2 CD set. Or now if it's on Spotify or wherever you're going to listen to it. Basically just puts it in one package. And you can see basically all of the bands that Metallica was inspired by. I'm just going to go through some of them real quick. You've got Diamond Head, Bob Seger, The Misfits, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Blue Oyster Cult, Anti-Nowhere League. Where else am I looking here? Queen, Motorhead, Sweet Savage. But for me, the track that stands out the most is their Merciful Fate medley. So Merciful Fate was one of like the old school black metal bands, and they do this 10-minute medley. It's 11 minutes of a bunch of their songs, and it's just metal perfection. It's so good. I highly recommend that. And then my other pick is Slayer's Undisputed Attitude. This one got kind of mixed reviews, and it's really only for like the enthusiast. But basically, this is just Slayer covering hardcore and punk bands. So they cover TSOL, DRI, Minor Threat, Dr. No, The Stooges, Verbal Abuse. It has one of my all-time favorite intros to any album with Disintegration / Free Money. Just turn that up real loud when you hit play and get ready for this kind of swell of feedback. And then Tom Araya just starts screaming, and then just this intense punk rock, heavy metal, like Slayer version of punk comes at you. It's awesome. I like it because Slayer was really highly influenced by punk rock, like the hardcore bands, Dead Kennedys. Some of the like foreign versions of this album have like suicidal tendencies. You can see that in their music, because I think we've talked about original heavy metal was a lot slower. And then even early Slayer albums are more like old school metal. They're slower. They've got a lot of reverb. And it wasn't until they got to Rain in Blood where they really made it tight and fast and just super aggressive. So it's really interesting to see that.
Interesting. I didn't know that about Slayer, so that's going to be pretty cool. I obviously knew about Garage Inc., but I didn't know about the Slayer one, so that should be pretty cool. Definitely have to take a listen to that. Do you have any other recommendations?
No, man, there's just those two albums.
Okay, I'm going to head into mine.
Oh, real quick, a side note. Their cover of Guilty of Being White, they do change the lyrics, and Ian MacKaye got really mad because they changed it to Guilty of Being Right. So I have to re-emphasize this every time I talk about Slayer. They're not racist. They do play with a lot of racist iconography. Like their logo is like inspired by Nazis and shit. But I always put that out there because I think it's funny that Ian MacKaye got mad at them, and that Slayer just doesn't give a shit because they're Slayer. Like, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I have an interesting Slayer story.
Oh,
One of my cousin's ex-boyfriends now, when you see him, you don't imagine him to listen to something like that. Very just, I had just met him. I think this is the first night I've met him. We were out, I think we were here in my house in the backyard having a couple beers and stuff. And then we're kind of just making conversation. And he goes, "Hey, have you heard the new Slayer album?" And I looked at him. I said, "No." I said, I haven't. He goes, "Oh man, it's great." I said, "I'm a big fan." I looked at him. I said, so I'm not sure if it was because he looked at me and he thought that I was into Slayer, or I don't know if it was because he actually listens to Slayer. It just kind of threw me off. And I'm assuming it was the glasses that got him thinking that I listened to Slayer, or maybe it would have been the t-shirt I was wearing at the time. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Surprisingly enough, you never know who listens to what, right?
Yeah, totally.
Just by looking at them. So my recommendations are going to be the first one is going to be Steel Train's 1969. I think that which is all covers. It is a 5-song EP where Steel Train picks five of their favorite songs that I believe were released in this 1969, and they just do covers of them, and they're pretty good. Aside from I Want You Back, they do a Beatles cover. I know they have a CCR cover there, so some pretty cool stuff. My second recommendation, and this is for my cousin Jose, is to listen to From the Screen to Your Stereo by New Found Glory. And I was going to go with a different recommendation today, but I think in the fact that we're doing covers, in the genre of pop punk / emo / New Found Glory are the major players of covers. I don't know if you're familiar, but they have done three EPs of this thing called From the Screen to Your Stereo, and each song that they do is a song from a movie. The first one has That Thing You Do. Gosh, I'm blanking on the rest. The second one has like Kiss Me from oh god, was it She's All That. I haven't listened to. I've learned some of the. I haven't listened to the third volume yet, which I've been meaning to. I just haven't gotten around to it. But that's just something that I think is pretty cool. And it actually got a lot of traction. I mean, they toured for all of those EPs. So I mean, they toured and yeah. So that was pretty cool too. I mean, I'm not a big New Found Glory fan as I was before. But it's pretty cool to just being able to go back to specifically those EPs, just because those one of them was really raw, right? Like I don't think they had too much time to record the first one, and then the second one was actually pretty interesting because it was very, very well produced, and definitely you can see that I spent more time with it. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So they did their own versions of covers that I guess you would say movie theme songs. Well, not necessarily theme songs, right?
There's like songs associated with movies, yeah.
Yeah, songs associated with films, yeah. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, the Napoleon Dynamite one as well. I know that. So that's. I mean, I do recommend those too, and you'll find all of that stuff on Spotify, except for 1969. I think we're going to post a YouTube link on that. But
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's segue into our final segment, which is the wind down. So let's wind this thing down. Have you seen Bill and Ted Face the Music?
No, man, I haven't. I don't know if I want to let go of the $30.
I know I think that's Mulan.
Oh, how much is Bill and Ted?
I think Bill and Ted's like $20.
Oh, maybe I should do that. I want to see it for sure.
Yeah. So, oh man, so we can't talk about it as much as I thought I would have. I thought you have seen it already, but it is. It's not an amazing movie. It's not a horrible movie. Have you ever? Oh gosh, I don't even know how to put it into words. Like I had this whole thing planned out, but I guess you kind of threw me off. It is what it is. It's a good movie. That's
what I'm hearing.
I think, yeah, it's a good movie. If you're a Bill and Ted fan, there's a lot of nostalgia, which I think you needed. I think that one of the scary parts about releasing a film, a sequel to something that has been out of, has been gone for 25 years, I think is can be kind of tough, right? I mean, gosh, when I first heard that it was actually going to be released, I was excited but nervous that I didn't want them to ruin it. And I think they did a good job. So, gosh, I wish we had a different wind down because I thought you have seen it. So I guess we're gonna have to revisit this one eventually.
We'll have to talk about this one for sure.
Yeah, but I definitely do think you should go watch it. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it, and everyone's back. So I would. And Alex Winter, man, he actually looks pretty good for his age, man. I will give him that. And Keanu Reeves, obviously, it's Keanu.
Yeah, it's Keanu. Yeah, Alex Winter has become a pretty successful little filmmaker too, man. He's directed a bunch of cool stuff, I've heard. Yeah. So it was pretty cool, man, to see them do all that cool stuff and reprise their roles, and it was pretty awesome. So I recommend the watch. It's pretty good. Have you seen Mulan yet? No, I'm not gonna. I saw will be available for free not for free, but will be available on normal Disney Plus in December, and I'm willing to wait.
That one's pretty good too. I recommend that. That's a good movie.
I'm sure I'll check them both out. We just showed my son the original Mulan, and he's really into it. So I'm sure we'll watch it eventually.
Yeah. Jose, you want to get into our social medias and where everybody can find us and follow us and like and subscribe?
Absolutely. As we come down here, let's go. All right. If you want to find us on the internet, you can go to halfstepdownpod.com. That's our official website. You'll see links to all our social media. All our episodes will be posted there. You can go there for all information regarding our show. If you want to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, we are at halfstepdownpod on Instagram and Twitter. If you are an old person and use Facebook, go to facebook.com/halfstepdownpod. We have a YouTube channel coming soon. I know we keep saying that, but it will be up eventually, I promise. Hey everyone, just wanted to jump in real quick and let you know that our YouTube channel is up and running now. Just look up Half Step Down in the YouTube search bar and look for the HSD logo. We should be the first thing that pops up. Thanks a lot. Back to the show. Check out the links to our Spotify playlist. They are in the description below. And if you like what you hear, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, help spread the word. Share us on social media. Use hashtag #HalfStepDownPod. And just spread the word. We are happy to have you guys listening to us.
Absolutely. Jose, you have yourself a good night. And everybody out there, and be safe. And if you're in Southern California, hopefully you guys haven't been evacuated yet because of the horrible fires going on right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, take care. Have a good night.
Adios.
Yeah, give it up for this guy. Promise you guys.
All right, dude.